Hi, my name is Hamza and this is Project 1, building the ultimate desk setup. My goals for this are for it to have good aesthetics, to have the tech up to a high standard, for it to be easy to use and to keep it under budget. At the end of the video I'll have what I've learned and my top tips. And I'll also keep a record of my expenses throughout the whole video. This is her old setup and as you can see it's quite worn out. It's got an ancient TV, cables everywhere and the laptop she got from work. That has to remain constant throughout the whole video because she needs it to work. So my whole planning was based around that. The first thing for me to buy was the monitors and I think that's the main part of any desk setup. I found these on Facebook Marketplace and I bought them for £80 for both of them. And that's the thing about Facebook Marketplace, you can always barter the price down. I thought these monitors also look quite nice with the silver band at the bottom and silver stand. My advice would be to always buy a monitor with a HDMI port and VESA mounting if possible. So you can see me putting it all together here, a bit of cable management, and I also had to buy a USB-C dock, and this is what allows you to transfer data from a laptop to two separate monitors. You can find many different types. I found one on Facebook Marketplace again, and I bought it for £10 in the end. You can find some with Ethernet ports as well, but mainly, importantly, it has two HDMI ports. There's a flow diagram here to explain how everything's put together. But also, I learnt during my research that not all USB ports are made equal. There are different ones, and if you want to be able to cast to two separate monitors, you need something called a Thunderbolt port, ideally, or a display port, and they're indicated by the lightning symbol or the D symbol. I found once everything's set up, Windows were actually very good at recognizing how many screens you have and where they are. And if you right click and then go to display settings, it's very customizable and the operating system for the displays are really easy to use. You'll see when I close my laptop here, the other two monitors go to 1 and 2 and it recognizes there's only 2. And I can move them around left and right and up and down as well accordingly. So yeah, this I would class as level 1, the biggest upgrade being made here, which is the monitors. But I wasn't quite happy, there were many things still not right with this. Mainly, the next thing I go to unjust is the fact that the monitors are not the right height, and the stand wasn't adjustable. So I had to then go on to build a monitor stand, which is like a shelf, and I class this as level 2. So I made this sort of stand out of an old shelf and some old decking boards that I had in the garage, as well as some L brackets. I basically screwed them all together. I think you'll notice that the back, the one in the middle, I pushed back slightly so I could use it, hide away the cables, and I thought that was quite a good idea. I even cut a notch, which you'll see a bit later on, to allow cables to go so it can sit flush against the wall. I use a jigsaw to cut the notch, as you'll see just about now, and actually it's one of my favorite tools. 100% recommend if you don't already have one. So then I go to put it all together. I don't know if you noticed, but there's a webcam at the top of one of the monitors, and that's because once you close down the laptop, obviously you can't use the webcam on the laptop. So I had a webcam luckily at home. I think it's from AliExpress and it's really cheap. I do go on to upgrade that a bit later on. But yeah, so this is how it's looking. You can kind of see from level 0 to level 1 to then level 2. It's already looking quite good, but still not quite right. I find like a lot of desk space is being used up by the stand, so I make some more changes. Here's a good example of the cable management. It just was all at the top and it was all a mess. First thing I buy is this dual monitor arm mount. It clamps onto your table and it was white because I wanted to allow it to blend with the wall. I also bought these VESA mountings because these HP monitors did not have VESA mounts on them, so you had to buy these adapters which were 3D printed by the looks of it, and they basically clip on as you see me do here instead of the stand. And although the product was amazing, it was an extra expense of £27, and if you can avoid it, why not? They were pretty sturdy and monitors have not fallen off yet, which was one of my fears, but it seems like they're pretty good. Then I go on to get this stand and start to plan things out, and you can see me here just staring at it because I realize a pretty big problem. You'll see a bit later on I double check that it actually is a problem and set it up really properly, and you can see there's a massive gap between the two monitors. So I had a quick think about how to do it, and I basically fixed it by removing one of the arm parts. So you can see one arm is longer than the other, and to be honest it didn't really turn out to be a huge problem. I then went on to screw all the parts together, and it was pretty easy, I would say. The mount I bought off Amazon, I think it was a Bondtech brand, is actually really good, and I think it's really adjustable to different heights and different angles, so I think that's really good. It's important to be aware that using this sort of clamp mechanism to the desk means the desk can't sit flush against the wall, so I had to unscrew it a bit and pull it out. With a bit of struggle I managed to get it on the pole, and yeah, so tightened everything together, did a bit of cable management. It looked really good. The white was a really good choice, and it just blends in and makes the whole look a bit more clean, I think. Of course the laptop has to stay there, and I basically chucked all the wires down the bottom and brought the charger and the USB dock cable up to the top and plugged it into the laptop. Here's a good view of the cable management above the desk. The next thing I purchased was this headphone stand from AliExpress, so for £4 it was a bargain. I then upgraded the webcam to this Logitech one, and I think this is one of the best ones out there. I have to be honest, my mum does meetings all the time, and this was a really good find. Again, Facebook Marketplace, I only bought it for £30. Then I went for a keyboard and mouse, and I did try the Apple mouse, but it just was really hard to use, and it was not ergonomic at all. And this Logitech mouse was absolutely brilliant. I've got no complaints, and same with the Apple keyboard. So this was the final look after level 3, but there were still some issues that I wanted to resolve. First of all, this mess. The cable management was non-existent, and also the fact that there was the laptop on the desk and that was still using up some desk space. And I wanted to be as efficient as possible, so I got to planning on my large whiteboard and made a few designs of how I was going to do some cable management. I went to B&Q, did a bit of shopping, and basically turned this into this. And this was something I was really pleased at. I was really impressed with myself, I don't know why. But I even showed you twice, that's how impressed I was. So this was the scene underneath the desk, and I basically used a wire mesh and some cable clips that nail into the desk and made it really personalizable for me. I only had one wire going from the underneath the desk to the outlet, and this is what I bought from IKEA in case you wanted to buy it. They do a cheaper, smaller version of that wire mesh, which is actually what I bought, but I couldn't find it online. And then I started to tackle the idea of getting rid of the laptop. So I made this drawer out of just a wood and some slides and fit it under the desk, as you can see here. This was also a really good opportunity to use my new tool, which was the plunge router, and I basically sketched out the shape of the laptop and then set my plunger to a certain depth to basically cut a divot in which the laptop would sit, and this would basically stop it moving, stop the cables moving. It didn't really leave the best finish in the world, probably due to my poor routering. I made some wood filler out of sawdust and glue, filled in any holes that I made, did a good sand and then paint, and it actually turned out quite nice and matched the desk, so I was happy. I then fit it into the drawer and basically cabled everything up. You'll notice I left 2 cables there, and they need a bit of slack because the drawer moves in and out. I then tested everything was working, and then yeah, this was the project complete. I'd say I was pretty pleased with the results and I hit my goals, so I was happy. This was the cost breakdown, and I think I kind of remained under the 300 price mark, so I was happy. Here's some bullet points on what I learned from this project. You can pause and have a read if you like. And to follow are some of my top tips if you're going to do this yourself. I'm no expert, and there's probably loads more videos out there that you can have a watch as well. In the future, when I've raised a bit more money, these are the things I'd like to do. Mainly the sit-stand desk. I think that'll be really interesting and a good place to start. So yeah, it's definitely been a journey, and thank you for watching. Stay tuned for my next project.